what you call biodiversity of plants. How plants are diverse. How are they diverse? Life in plants is as diverse as you can think of. But how are these plants diverse? So we are going to start with the simplest form of the plants to the most complex part of the plant, or most complex type of the plants. So that's why we are saying that biodiversity of plants. Here we're going to be looking at what we call the BRYOPHYTE, Pteridophyte. Sometimes we call them Pterophytes, and we don't call them Pteridophyte. We call them Pterophytes. And then GYMNOSPERMs, and then ANGIOSPERMs. We need to understand the meaning of each and every term which you see on the screen. BRYOPHYTEs, Pteridophytes. I say that sometimes we call them Pterophytes, GYMNOSPERMs, and ANGIOSPERMs. Sometimes the gymnosperms and angiosperms, both of them, we call them spermatophytes. All right, let's look at the evolution of these plants. Where did they start from and where are they? Which one is most adapted and which one is the least adapted? Evolution of plants. Here we are going to say that evolution of plants has resulted in a wide range of complexity. It means that the organisms evolve from a simple to a more complex organism. When you talk about evolution, evolution is increase in the complexity of an organism. The organism becomes more complex as time goes on. In this example, I can give an example as the different types of phones we have been using. A version of 2000 and a version of 2022 is basically different. A version of 2022 and a version of 2023 is different. And then even when you check an amount of money they are selling these phones, they are different. Why are they different? Because of the complexity these organisms have or these phones have. So the early organisms were a little bit simple, and then the recent organisms are a little bit complex. So that evolution occurs not only in the other organisms, but also in plants. So how did these plants evolve, and which one is the simplest form, and which one is the most developed plant? So plants, basically, they evolved from what we call the algae through what we call multicellular marine and fresh organisms. So these algae were green in color. So they developed from this green algae. Algae is not really classified as a plant. When you check in the classification, what we looked at, algae does not belong to plants. So this algae, they had to change from the simple. They had to change into a terrestrial organism. In this case, a terrestrial plant, which is the BRYOPHYTE. It means that the BRYOPHYTE are the simplest form of plants. And then the BRYOPHYTE developed slowly, and then they form what you call the pterophytes, or what we call the ferns. The ferns are yes, the ferns are example of what we call the pterophytes, or what we call pteridophytes. And then the pteridophyte, they modified slowly into what we call the gymnosperms. And then the gymnosperms, they developed more into what we call the angiosperms. So today we have what we call the most developed plant as the angiosperms. But what does the word gymnosperm, angiosperm, pteridophyte, BRYOPHYTE mean? We're going to look at it. We're going to look at it. Let's look at the detailed part of evolution of plant groups. Evolution of the plant groups. Currently, there are different plant groups or plant species on Earth, which are said to have emerged from a simple unicellular algae. So in this case, what you look at it, the previous algae was unicellular, one cell, but it developed into a multicellular organism. Yes. So these plants have been classified into 4 plant groups. The first group is what we call the BRYOPHYTES. The example of BRYOPHYTES are the mosses, the liverworts, the hornworts. Have you ever seen this? Have you got a chance for your teacher to take you where these BRYOPHYTES are? Or have you got a chance for your teacher to bring these BRYOPHYTES into your class? Let's see some of the pictures as we continue. The next group is what called the Pterophytes, or what you call the Pteridophytes. An example are ferns. Ferns are also examples. We find these plants most especially in forests, in thick forests, not just mere forests. The problem we have now, we only visit our forests, our lakes, our deserts, our rivers, our oceans, our everything we think of. ShopRite, Pick and Pay, Checkers, what is enough for us. So we don't even get enough chance to go and find this. Some of us, we have never even gone to see how a farm looks like and what happens in the farm. And yeah, sometimes people, when we talk about farms, they feel so bad. So that's the reason why you don't know these things, but you need to go and visit as a scientist and check and see what we say, and you see them by your eyes. The next group is what you call the GYMNOSPERMs. GYMNOSPERMs include all that. The conifers, the best example is the Christmas tree is an example of a gymnosperm. A gymnosperm, yes. So when I talk about the Christmas tree, I think now you talk about, you understand better. So when you talk about gymnosperm, when you talk about conifers, is an example of what? A Christmas tree. Cycads, ginkgos. So all these are examples. Pine tree. All these, I think you know these examples. Yes. But some of them you don't know by English or scientific terms, but if you see them, you see that, yeah, I've ever seen this before. Another one is what we call the angiosperm, the most developed plants, which we call the flowering plants. These are plants which have flowers. Why do we use such tough words to describe these plants? They have a basis for them to be the way they are. So let's look at the link, the line, how did they develop, which we call the phylogenetic tree. The phylogenetic tree. I have a beautiful example here of phylogenetic tree. If you look at it on the screen, you'll find out that here you have what you call the original plants, or no, origin of plants. These ones, these are what you call the algae. So they developed, they didn't just come from nowhere. They have a basis where they came from. So they started with the real plants started with what you call the bryophytes. These bryophytes, when you look at this phylogenetic tree, it means that this box is only with all these plants. This box is only with these plants. This box is only with this plant. Before the box, it means that all this, they don't have it. This box belongs to only this. All this, they don't have it. This box belong to this. All this, they don't have. So basically, that's what is it. Yeah, you'll excuse us for that noise because of the recording from town. Sometimes we have no choice, but we have to deliver the what? The class. They're saying that when we are setting in exam, we can bring them, we hide something. I'm going to show you how do we answer questions and what are some of the most or the commonly asked question in this topic. So we are saying that bryophytes are an informal division that consists of 3 groups. Those groups, all of them are non-vesicular plants. It means that when you talk about the word non-vesicular, it means that they don't have what? They don't have what we call the xylem and the phloem. They don't have them. Yes. So examples are moss, liverwort, and then honeywort. So these are some of the pictures we can use for you to understand. This is the honeywort, this is the liverwort, and then these are the moss. I think most of us, we don't know what we call the honeyworts, we don't know what we call the liverworts, but in most cases, we know what we call the moss. I'll be doing a video soon, just trying to show you that moss and these different plants are corresponding to all the groups, so that now you understand better, so that you don't get any confusion when we talk about these bryophytes, the pteridophytes, the angiosperm, and then the GYMNOSPERM. So let's look at the general characteristics of the bryophytes. Number 1, they're found in the damp areas. Damp areas. So the general characteristics, we say that, number 1, they are found in damp and shaded or shady areas. Areas which are a little bit moist. Yes, moist areas. They can't be able to stay in area which is not having water. It's supposed to be moist. Why? Because of they don't have a vesicular tissue. They don't have these structures which can make them sustain the harsh conditions of this terrestrial life. So because they are from algae, and algae are found in water, so they try to develop slowly, but they have not yet developed to sustain themselves in areas which are a little bit harsh. Number 2, these plants, they have what we call, its body is a thallus. Thallus means that the roots are not true roots, the leaves are not true leaves, the stem is not true stem. Like, it looks like a plant, Yes, it's a plant, but not perfectly a plant. You understand? Yes. That's why if you look at, we're going to see it, that if you look at its roots are not called roots, they're called rhizoids. You're going to see that. So it is a plant-like, hence we call it a what? A thallus. It is attached to the substratum. Substratum, it means that sublayers. In science, when you say substratum, it means stratum. Stratum comes from the word layer. When there are many layers, it means strata. So by the rhizoids, it means that they carry out anchorage by rhizoids, which are unicellular. It means that they are single cell, Some of them are multicellular. And then you're saying that they lack what called a vegetative structure and they have root-like. You see, root-like, root-like, root but like, stem but like, leaf but like. This dash, it means that root-like, meaning that they're not true roots, but they look like roots. They're not true stems, but they look like stems. They're not true leaves, but they look like leaves. That's the meaning. These plants lack a vesicular system, meaning that they don't have a xylem and they don't have what? A phloem, as I explained. These bryophytes reproduce by means of spores. They have spores. Spores, you remember that these are gametes which even can be blown by air to another point when the favorable condition is there, then they develop. So that's how they look like. The development, the dominant part of this plant is a gametophyte. It means that the gametophyte is the dominant generation. Most of the plants, the sporophyte is a dominant generation, but here the gametophyte, the phase of gamete, is the dominant generation, which is haploid. Remember that the gametes, the sperms, and the ova are always what? Are always haploid. Yes. So if we take it to be a human being, it exists more, especially as a sperm and as an ovum. So that's why I call it a gametophyte. If you look at a human being, but we don't classify him or her or them like that, what you see could be what we call the sporophyte. So most of our gametes are always in the testes and the ovaries. But this one, the gametophyte, is the dominant generation. It means that it usually exists as a gamete than a sporophyte. It has also a sporophyte phase, but the gametophyte is the dominant generation. Then we say that it needs water for reproduction. This is also another characteristic which shows that this plant is still primitive. Because we came from water, these plants came from water, from a common ancestor, algae, yes? So they still have more of characteristics of water than more of characteristics of land. That's why this characteristic, it shows that this plant is still primitive in that regard. So it requires water for reproduction so that these spores can swim to the male and female can swim, and then fertilization can take place. These plants don't have fruits. They don't bear fruits. It means that they are non-fruit plants. All right, let's look at the structure of a moss, because we usually ask you that structure of a moss. How does a moss look like? A moss has different parts. Rhizoids as what we call roots. Don't call them roots, we call them rhizoids. Gametophyte, this is the dominant generation we talked about. These are leaf-like. Then this is a seta, which act like a stem. And this part, this phase, is what we call the sporophyte. It contains the spores. And where spores are kept is what you call the capsule. So you can't go to the exam without knowing the structure of what? Of a moss, because we like it. We like it. We love it. So this is another example when it is divided into two. Yes, this is a sporophyte, this is a gametophyte, this is how a female looks like, and this is how a male looks like. So basically, we love to ask you this one, more than this. This is just a description to show you how it looks like. Let's look at what we call the herophytes, or what we call the pteridophytes, depending on how your teacher taught you. But sometimes we call it pterophytes, sometimes we call them pteridophytes. Pteridophyte is a vesicular plant. It means that it has the xylem and the phloem, plant that disperses spores, spreads spores because of Pteridophyte produce neither flowers. They don't have flowers. They don't have seeds. Check. Therefore, they don't have flower. They are saying they produce neither flowers nor seeds. Neither flowers nor seeds. It means that they don't produce flowers. They don't produce seeds. In other words, they are crypto. Crypto means something which is hidden. When you say cryptocurrency, it's a currency which is not direct. You can't have a Bitcoin and then you go and to ShopRite and then you buy. However much is the currency, but you can't, is hidden in something else. Even they tell you and say that this cryptocurrency is worth, or this Bitcoin, for example, is worth this amount of dollars. It means that they have to first convert it into another currency so that you know its worth. So when you say crypto in science, it means something which is hidden. So these are also hidden. They are cryptos. The funds, the hostels, all these are examples of pterophytes. We will find this in the forest if we go together to discover more about life science. So this is example, this is a structure of a fan. This is how a fan looks like with the rhizoids, you see. So this rhizome, not a rhizoid, yeah. Don't confuse what called rhizoid and rhizome. Rhizome, it's like underground stem. Looks like what we call a stolon. So the rhizome have what we call the roots. It means that this is a little bit advanced compared to bryophytes. So when we continue, we see that what are some of the general characteristics of these pterophytes or pteridophytes? Number one, they have a true root, true leaves, true stems, true roots, true leaves, true stems. It means that these are basically better plants than the bryophytes. The sporophyte is a dominant generation. Sporophyte. Remember the other one we said, the gametophyte. Yes, but here the sporophyte is the dominant generation. Yes. And then we are saying that the gametophyte is a prothallus. It's before the thallus, as we are going to that side. It means that it is not yet a thallus. Therefore, it means that it's also, its gametophyte is weak. Therefore, the sporophyte, that's why the sporophyte is the dominant generation, as we have mentioned it here, that sporophyte is a dominant generation, while the other one, we say the gametophyte, is a dominant generation. The weak of this one is the advanced version of the other one, the bryophyte. You see that now pteridophyte are more advanced than bryophytes. They have adventitious roots. Adventitious roots, it means that they don't have these roots which undergo to the ground very fast, far deep. They are just like hair on the head. Adventitious root. Example of adventitious root is the onion. If you look at the onion, yes. Leaves are monocots. It means that they have long leaves. They have long leaves. Yes, they have long leaves with the parallel veins, not network. And the dicot leaves are attached to the petals. So these leaves, if they are monocots, they are sensile. And then if they're dicots, they are attached to the petal. What are monocots? Monocots, when you talk about monocots, because some students may be confused, when you say monocotyledonous plant, is a plant which has one seed. An example is a maize, meal. And then a dicot is a plant which has two seeds. An example is peanut, beans. Yes. Examples of dicots. I think now you understand. Then the sporophyte is a dominant generation. We have seen it. And it has true roots, true stems, and true leaves. It needs water for reproduction. It means that even this one is still having that primitive characteristic. That primitive characteristic of what? The primitive characteristic of having water to be present for its reproduction to take place. So it requires water for reproduction to take place. Possesses what you call the xylem and phloem. It means that they have what we call the vesicular bundle or the vesicular tissue. It means that now they can stay a bit of towards the land than towards the water. It means that they cannot only stay in dampy areas which are too moist. They can stay, yes, in moist area, but not too much moist. Let's look about gymnosperms. Gymnosperm. Gymnosperm. When you talk about that, who is a gynecologist? Let me know the answer. Who is a gynecologist? You see, is derived from gynoecium, gymnosperm. That's why we say that gymnosperm and angiosperm, they belong to a group of plants called spermatophyta. Why? Because they have the sperms. Gymnosperm, angiosperm. Therefore, they belong to a group of plants called spermatophyta. They can produce sperms. Okay. Gymnosperms comes from the word which means seed are naked. They produce seeds. And these seeds, in most cases, they come as groups. They include conifers, cycads. We talked about this. Conifers, cycads, geckos, and then gnatophytes. Yes, all these are examples of gymnosperm. The word gymnosperm mean or come from a composite word in Greek, which literally means what? It means naked seeds. It means that they are naked seeds. What are some of the examples? These are the examples. But let me use the pick and pay, shop right, checkers, what language you understand better. When you say coconut, I think you understand now. That's an example of a gymnosperm. When you talk about a coconut, all coconuts, all nuts are gymnosperms except peanuts. Because in science, we don't call them peanuts, we call them groundnuts. And they are not real nuts. In science, we don't classify them as nuts. Because when we classify nuts, we're talking about those plants which have seeds which are very hard. You have to use whatever you to use if your teeth are sharp to break them. So, peanuts is just the English word, which means whatever they try to mean. But scientifically, peanuts are not nuts. We are talking about, when we talk about nuts, we're talking about those structures which are hard. Their seeds are hard. When you talk about these other nuts, coconut, yes. And you will name any other nut you can think of, but they have hard seeds. Yes. Then the name is based on that unenclosed condition, the unenclosed condition of these seeds. Let's see some of the examples of these gymnosperms. Examples are that all those are nuts. If you look at them, all of them are nuts. All of them are nuts. You see that, I think most of you have ever seen this, you have ever seen this, you have ever seen this. Yes. So these are examples of gymnosperm. They have naked seeds. They have naked seeds. What are some of the characteristics? We have talked about them. So let's be very fast. Two roots, two stems, two leaves. We have talked about them. Number 2, sporophyte is the dominant generation. We have said it. Leaves are needle-shaped. It means that they are, most of them are what? Are long. Most of them. They have these monocotyledonous plants. Yes. Then another one, we are saying that male cones, that is in groups, small, and they carry what we call the pollen grains. They are smaller. The female are big, as you know. Ladies are always bigger than men. Yes. If you find a man who is bigger than a female, that's a rare case. Yes. It's okay because everyone has taste of preference. You find some ladies, they want big men. Find some men, they want small ladies or big ladies. So all those things, they happen, but in most cases, they happen based on what God wants. But scientifically, we always find, apart from the rare cases, always find that males are always in small size and the female are always in big size. So don't be scared when you find a small guy with a very big lady. By the way, don't forget to stay virgin. Most plants are perennial and woody. Perennial. What does the word perennial mean? Perennial means plants which can stay more than 1 year. And woody, it means that they can produce a wood. What is a wood? A timber. What's a timber? The table you are sitting on. They do not require water for reproduction. It means that now they can sustain on land very well without any problems. They are adapted to live on terrestrial environment. Xylem and phloems, yes, what about them? They do have the xylem and phloem. It means that they have a vesicular bundle. We talked about it. Lastly, let's talk about the angiosperms. Remember I said that these are spermatophytes. Angiosperms. Angiosperms, it means that plants which bear flowers, and these flowers, they have fruits. These plants, they have fruits. It means that the seed is embedded. If this is the seed, is embedded into the flower. You see, outside is not a flower, a fruit. Outside is a fruit, but inside is the seed. If you eat the coconut, you are not eating a fruit. No, man, you are eating a seed. But if you eat a mango, you eat the fruit. Leave alone these mangoes we get from there. They are far away without seeds. A mango is supposed to have a seed. What about those which don't have seeds? Those are genetically modified mangoes. You will study that in grade 12. So we are saying that the term angio is derived from a Greek word. And this Greek word means seeds enclosed in fruits. Seeds enclosed in what? In fruits. So basically, that is it. Angiosperm are the most advanced, the most developed. When you go to the Valentine, the way you did it, or you tend to do it, you take a flower. When you take a flower, actually, you are trying to kill another plant because the flower is meant to produce a seed, and that seed is supposed to do what? To develop another plant. So now you are against the spread of this plant. Yes, don't put feeling in education. I'm just teaching you. Yes. Anyway, yeah, I'm just saying it, whether you are against or you are not against, but in reality, if we sit down at a table and we see, it seems that you are not in support of that plant. What are some of the general characteristics of the gymnosperms? We have seen them. That's why I've shown you all of them once. They have flowers. They are, the spermatophyte is the dominant generation. It's only in bryophytes where the gametophyte is the dominant generation. They have vesicular bundle. They don't need water for reproduction. They also have spores. Their seeds are enclosed in the fruit. So if they ask you the advantages, the characteristics, you have to know. If they ask you the differences between angiosperm and gymnosperm, the major difference is angiosperms, the seeds are enclosed in fruits, while in gymnosperm, the seeds are naked. If they ask you the major difference between the gymnosperm and the spermatophyta, and the pteridophytes, the pteridophytes don't have seeds. They use spores only. But this one, they have seeds. That's why they call them spermatophyta. And then bryophyte and the pteridophyte, bryophytes are thallus. And also, the dominant generation is a gametophyte. And also, I've said it. Yes. The two bryophytes and the pteridophytes, if you look at them, both they require water for reproduction to take place. But the bryophytes, they require more water than the pteridophyte. Yes. Science is nice if you really study. It's simple because what we teach is what we see every day. It's what we do every day, every single day. Anyway, next class is going to be asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Asexual and sexual reproduction. Let's look at some of the questions which we can ask under this topic of let's look at some of the questions concerning about the plant biodiversity and some of the questions which are most likely to come. Various options are provided as possible answers. So these are just objectives, the same way how you can answer any objective. Which one of the following is present in bryophyte? If you look at this, remember we said that bryophytes do not have seeds. So they are not plants. So they do not have what we call seeds. So this one is wrong. Sorry, this one is wrong. Xylem, they don't have xylem. This one is wrong. They don't have flowers. This one is wrong. So the correct answer is they have spores. Which one of the following is an advantage of asexual reproduction? Yes, we have not yet covered this, but let's just talk about it. Asexual reproduction, remember that you don't need to have two parents. You only need to have one parent. And then number two, you'll find out that in asexual reproduction, you'll find out that the organisms, they multiply at a very fast rate. So offsprings compete for resources. That's not an advantage. A large number of offsprings are produced or reproduced quickly. This is correct. Extreme temperature can wipe out. This is not an advantage. Offsprings are genetic colonies. This is also not an advantage. Yes. So basically, however much all these they are found in asexual reproduction, but we are looking for the advantage. So this one becomes the correct answer. Then they're saying indicate the whether each of the statement in the column. So guys, you have to use what we call A only, B only, both A and B, or none. So you cannot use A, you cannot use B, you cannot use both. You cannot use those things. The instruction is saying A only, A only, A only, B only. So you have to follow what? The instruction. They're saying that vesicular tissue, remember I've been talking about the vesicular bundle, vesicular tissue. Here, when you talk about vesicular tissue, you're talking about the xylem and the phloem. So the answer is going to be both A and B. Then gametophyte is dominant generation. Remember we said that it's only the bryophytes which have the dominant generation as the gametophyte. So in this case, you are going to say that now, they didn't say bryophyte, they didn't say pteridophyte, angiosperm, gymnosperm. No, they gave you the examples of each group. So in this case, we have the moss and the fan. The fan are pteridophytes. The moss are bryophytes. So the answer becomes this. So I'm going to say the answer is going to be A only. Then they're saying that dependent on water for fertilization. Which one depend on water for fertilization? There's only two groups which depend on water for fertilization. That is the bryophyte and the pteridophyte. So in this case, we don't have the bryophyte. So the answer is going to be B only. We say that these are spermatophytes. They are able to adapt to the harsh conditions. So for them, they don't need water for them to carry out what we call the fertilization. So the answer is only B only. Then when you go to section B, we are saying that here you are seeing one plant here and another plant there. So here is angiosperm. A is angiosperm. And then B is a cone, which is which is a gymnosperm. So if you look at what is one is the stigma, and then two is the anther. So let's go to questions and we see. Name the plant division both the organs belong to. Which plant division? Remember we said that this is a gymnosperm, and then this is angiosperm. So they are sperm plants. So the kind of plant group they belong to, I've been saying it, is called spermatophyta. Spermatophyta. Identify the organ in B. Yes, this is a cone. But which cone is this? It's a female. Female. So it becomes the female cone. Identify one and two. We identified it. One, we said it's the stigma, and then two is the anther. Explain one way in which plant organ represented by A is more successful in reproduction than plant organ labeled B. How is plant A able to become more successful than plant B? If you look at plant A, here we're talking about reproduction. These plant A angiosperms, the most advanced plants, they have what called they use what called the pollinating agents to aid in the transfer of these pollen grains. The pollinate agents. And then while plant B, they only use wind. But this plant A, among the pollinating agent, also wind is among them. So wind, but this one only has one alternative, that is wind. So this one has many, has insects, has birds, has wind. So it means that this one has more options than this. Therefore, it can become more successful in terms of reproduction than, it's like when you are in area, there is only one girl. And then there is another one in area, there is thousands of girls. Which one is most likely to reproduce into the next generation if both of them are looking for reproduction? The one which has more girls. It means that reproduction can take place very fast. Or you have different options. If this one doesn't work, this one can work. Yeah, that's why A is more advanced or more adapted than B. Then they're saying that the diagram below shows the relationship between the plant groups studied. Okay, let's look at it. Name the diagram, name the name of the type of diagram. We say that this is called a phylogenetic tree. Yes, it's called phylogenetic tree. Then they're saying that which terrestrial plant is least suited for life on land? Yes, if you look at it, this is, as you are going up, it becomes more advanced, and then it means that as you're going down, it becomes more towards water. That's why this and this, they require water for reproduction, while this and this, they don't need water for reproduction. So if you're talking about terrestrial, we're talking about land, which is having harsh conditions. Therefore, the answer, which terrestrial plant plant group is least? So the answer is asking least adapted. So if they say least adapted, yes, it means that they are going towards down, the lower part. So we have the green, common green algae. Algae is not a plant, does not belong to kingdom plantae. Therefore, we are talking about, and algae in most cases found in water, not on terrestrial environment. So the answer is going to become BRYOPHYTE. So they're saying that GYMNOSPERMs are more advanced than BRYOPHYTE. State two pieces of information from the diagram that supports your statement or that statement. We see that GYMNOSPERMs, the development of seeds, they have seeds. So this is the first point. And then number two, gymnosperm, they have vascular tissue. While BRYOPHYTEs, they don't have. Neither. They don't have either the seeds or the what? The vascular bundle. So that is an advantage to gymnosperms. What feature do all four plant groups have in common with their algae ancestor? Because they are plants, definitely they are green in color. Green in color. So it means that they have what you call chlorophyll. So the answer is chlorophyll. Yes, they have chlorophyll, or you can say that they are photosynthetic because they have chlorophyll, therefore they are photosynthetic. They can carry out photosynthesis. The last question goes to this grade 11 learner want to investigate the preference of two pollinating agents, hummingbird and hawk moth, to these different types of plant species. A, Formosa and pubensis, whatever. The total number of visits to the flowers of these plant species were recorded over a period of 24 hours. Results shown in the table below. All right. Always read what is being given above. Number one, They are saying that plant species, yes, identify the independent variable, the dependent variable. Remember, I use that principle of I, D, X, Y. This, if it were to plot this one on X, this one gonna go on. This one is gonna go on Y. So independent variable. So independent variable, dependent variable. What are they looking for? Dependent variable. So therefore, the answer is gonna be the number of visits to the flower by the pollinators. State one way in which the investigator ensured that investigation was valid. Was valid. It means that you're supposed to talk about in past tense. The duration of investigation was the same. You see, it means that they use the same duration. It must have the word the same, but it means that what used here is the same thing what used here. So was the same. So investigator used the same. So how did he ensure that there is validity there? So he made sure, he made it so that the investigator uses the same number of hours duration. So that's why I'm saying you can say that the duration of the investigation was the same. In other words, it was 24 hours in both plants. That is in both plants. That is this and this. All right. Number 2, state. If just in case the electricity goes, then it means that our class will end like that. All right. We are saying that state one way in which the investigator ensured. We are done with that. State one way in which the investigator could increase. Could. Now here is telling us what could be done. Then must use maybe the same environmental condition, same number of flowers, same kind of birds. For example, the hummingbirds and the hawk moth, they must not use the different what? Birds. Lastly, what can a researcher conclude from the result? If you look at this, what can the researcher conclude about? If you look at it, hummingbird, what do they prefer? They prefer this Formosa. And then what about the hawk moth? The hawk moth, they prefer the pabensis. Yes, it means that the Welcome back to our class. Don't forget to subscribe, like, or share to others for our daily new videos. Today, we are going to be looking at what you call biodiversity of plants. How plants are diverse. How are they diverse? Life in plants is as diverse as you can think of. But how